Hello, SteadyOn here, and this tutorial is going to be on something maybe slightly more complicated. So this is, I wouldn't call it an advanced scripting tutorial, but you should know at least some stuff about scripting and about GUIs to be able to do this. It contains a lot of logic, so there's a lot of if statements to check whether the time is of a certain amount and stuff like this. So the way this will look is like a conventional clock. Just like a timer you'd see in real life. And if you don't understand it, that's fine. I do have a game which I'm going to put this in, and that will be free to edit, and it'll be in the description as well, so you can look at how I made this, or you can just take it and use it yourself and just change the UI. So firstly, we're going to make the UI. The UI is very simple to make, obviously, because you just literally make a GUI. You can make whatever you want, so you could make it really complicated or not, but I'm going to make a very simple GUI, simplest thing I can make really, apart from, yep. Okay, so it's timer frame, literally because it is the timer frame. Change the anchor point. We'll make the size scale. You don't need to understand what that means. If you don't understand, that's fine. I'll make it 0.2 by 0.4. Nope, wrong way, sorry. 0.4 by 0.2. There we go. Right, now we're going to position it in the center of the screen. Okay, so all of this stuff you can edit yourself. It's completely customizable. See, this is just the GUI. And then we're going to put a text label in here, and the text label is going to just be called clock. And this is where the actual stuff is going to happen. So this is where all the timer, this is where you'll see the timer working. So I'll just make this all the right size. And the full size of this. Change the font to Source Sans Bold because that's my favorite font. And just for the sake of this, we're going to make it 0000 like that. That is what the clock will look like. Actually, I don't know if I'll make the Source Sans Bold. Maybe it'll look nicer in light. Okay, we'll just stick with that for now. So obviously you can add whatever you want to this. You can add something that says time left or something in the top of title or whatever. It's obviously completely customizable to how you want to do it. And also the script is completely customizable as well. Obviously, if you understand what you're doing, you can change anything in the script really. Yeah. So also, by the way, we're going to be using some things that are actually taken from, I guess you'd call advanced scripting, such as the percentage, using the percentage sign to work out the remainder of something. I'll show you what that means in a second. Okay, so in the timer GUI, in the frame, I'm going to create a script, a local script, because this timer will be local, which is a good thing really, because it means it will work with filtering enabled, and you can do something like, if you don't understand what I'm saying, don't worry, but you can do things like, say, time something on the server, and while it's being timed on the server, also time it on the local side visually, so the person sees the timing on the local side, but the actual timing is happening on the server side. So for example, if you're going to have a game where it times a round, you can time the amount of time the round takes on the server side in a script in server script service, and then in the local script where this timer is, you can time that same amount of time visually, and then the player can see a visual of how much time is left, even though it's not the real amount of time that's left, although it should be the real amount of time. There's stuff like latency and stuff like this, where they're local. The fact that it's their computer timing, it might make it go weird. But no, don't worry about that if you don't understand that. That's completely irrelevant, really. It's just some example uses. So now we've got the script open. Don't worry about the color scheme I've got here. This is just something I've added myself. So yours will just probably look white with the default Roblox color scheme. So we're going to start off with a reminder. Sorry, we're going to start off with a variable. And we're going to call this variable time in seconds, right? So this variable is, if you don't want to actually make the script yourself, this is the variable you're going to want to change. This is the script. This is the variable with the number of seconds that you want to time. So this timer will work with, say, 5 minutes and 30 seconds. It won't. You don't have to just use 5 minutes. So it doesn't have to be divisible by 60. So for this example, we'll try 350. So that's 350 seconds. That's not 3 minutes and 50 seconds, or 3 seconds and a half or something. That's 350 seconds. Now we're going to create another variable called time in minutes. And this variable is actually going to be based off the original variable we've just created. And what we're going to do is we're going to take time in seconds, and we're going to divide it by 60. So what we're doing here is we're finding out how many minutes are in the seconds we've got here, right? But there's a problem, because if we do this, and for example in 350, we divide that by 60, we'll actually have a remainder of 50 seconds left. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to add this thing called math_floor. Math.floor brackets, right? So this is brackets around the equation. And what this does is it basically rounds it down to the nearest whole number. So for example here, it will round it down to, well, hold on, let me just put that quickly. I think, well, it'll round down to however many minutes go into 350 seconds. So it will divide 350 by 60, and then it will round that it will round the number of things. Sorry, it will round the result down to the nearest whole number. So that means you don't get any, like, 5 minutes and a half because we'll deal with that later. So then we're going to create another variable called remainder, and this variable is going to hold what we've just taken away in the time in minutes variable, because this variable will hold the number of seconds that need to be added onto the end, so that it will actually time the rate of our seconds, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So the remainder is the time in seconds, and then we're going to use this, the percentage sign. Now that doesn't mean percent, that doesn't mean anything you'd kind of expect it to mean. What it actually means is divide it by 60 and then get the remainder. So, divide it by 60 because I put 60 there. So what this actually does is it divides time in seconds, which in this case is 350, by 60, and then it gets the remainder of that, so that will be 50. So in this case, the variable here will contain 50 seconds, right? So we're actually going to want to time the remainder of seconds before we time the actual whole minute section. So what we're going to start off with is a for loop. So just for I equals 1 remainder do. So what we're actually doing here is we're counting up in ones all the way to remainder. And then we're going to put a wait, and in there we're going to put a 1. So that means it will wait 1 second all the way up to however much the remainder is. So this is a loop. It will loop around however many times the number of remainder is. So in this case, the remainder is 50, so this will loop 50 times and therefore wait 50 seconds in total. But that's not it, because obviously you don't see anything in this case. We're going to make something which might be a bit confusing actually. So if you have a clock and the number of, we have a variable here called sorry, actually no, yeah, actually yes, we have a variable here called time in minutes, right? So if this variable is 5 minutes, say, and we say make it so that the start of the clock is the time in minutes, and the second part of the clock after this is the seconds, right? What can happen there is you'll get something like this. You'll get 5, and then say the number of seconds is 7 seconds. That's not a clock, is it? That's a sort of a weird, yeah, it's just a sort of a, it's not a clock. And the reason that happens is because we haven't done any kind of checking to see whether it's underneath any numbers or stuff like that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say if time in minutes is more than 9, then, and what we're doing here is we're saying if it's basically what we're actually asking is it more than 2, is it 2 digits or is it 1 digit? Because if it's 1 digit, then we don't need to put an extra, then we need to put an extra 0 in, because otherwise it will look weird. But if it's more than 1 digit, then it will work fine because clocks have 2 digits on each side. So what we're saying here is if the number of minutes is more than 9, then do whatever here. And then we're also going to put an else here. So that means if it's less than 9, then do whatever is in this space here. So we're going to put, for the first one, we're going to put we're going to have a thing checking. So actually, I'll just quickly go over this. So I represents the iterator variable. So I is whatever point the loop is at right now. So say we stop this loop halfway through, and remainder represents right now, it represents 30 in this case, right? That means that I at this point equals 15 because it's halfway through the loop. So what I'm about to do here is I'm going to say if remainder minus I is less than 10, then, and what I've really done is I've taken the number of seconds, so in this case 30, and I've taken away however far it is in the loop. So if I'm 14 seconds on in the clock, then it will take the 30 seconds I've got here in the remainder variable, and it will take away 14 from that variable, and it will give me 16. Right. So this itself here is 16 in this case. If the loop had looped around 14 times at this point. So what this really does is it calculates how many seconds have already been done. So what we're doing here is we're saying if the number of seconds left is less than 10, then do this, and then else. So if it's more than 10, do this. So now we're actually getting on to manipulating the text in the clock. So the first thing we're going to do is script parent clock. Actually, we won't do that. We are going to add another variable here called clock text. And what this is going to be is script parent, because we've got script parent clock. Okay, so script parent clock, and that's it, right? So that represents the text label we've got here with the time in it. And that saves us from having to write script parent clock every time. It also prevents it from looking all cluttery and messy. So what we're going to do is we're going to say clock text, because it's the text property of the clock text label, equals time in minutes, ... which means basically time in minutes followed by, and then a string, so a colon. So the number of minutes followed by a colon, and then followed by remainder. Right? Minus I, actually, sorry, because we want to work out the number of seconds left, which is what remainder minus I does. But if you look here, what we've done is we've actually checked if the number of seconds left is less than 10. And if it is less than 10, then it will be a single digit. So we want to make it 2 digits. So to do that, all we're going to do is we're going to add another ... to signify adding on, basically, adding on to the string. And then here we're going to put a 0. So what I'll do is we'll add a 0 to the end of, sorry, actually I've done this wrong. We're actually going to take the 0 away, and we're going to put it before this. So we're going to put it here actually, and then ... Because obviously otherwise, if there was 7 seconds left, it would add a 0 on the end and actually say there was 70 seconds left, which is obviously completely wrong. So that's a very simple change, that's not important. What we can actually do is we can just remove that whole thing there. You can leave it like this if you want, whatever you want to do. But since these are both strings, there's not much point in having that, so we're just going to have that there. Okay, and now we're going to do the other thing. So if the number of seconds left is more than 10, then we're going to make clock text time in minutes, colon, remainder minus I, right? So we've done the same thing here, apart from we haven't added a 0 on, because if it's more than 10, then it must be a 2-digit number. So we don't need to add a 0 because it's already 2 digits, right? And we already know that the number of minutes is a 2-digit number because we've already checked if it's more than 9 or not. So now we're going to go and put if the number of minutes is less than 9. So to do that, we're just going to copy this whole if statement here we've got. So that's just there, copy, and then here we're going to paste it in, and then we're going to say very similar things actually. Apart from we're going to add a 0 here. ... to signify continue. Oh, actually, sorry, I put that in the wrong place. Here, we're going to put the 0. And then we're going to do the same thing here as well. And the reason we're doing that is because if it's 5 minutes left, then you don't want it to just say 5, you want it to say 05, as a clock would say, right? So now we've done the remainder. So we can test this if we want. So let's give it a test. And what this should do is it should time 50 seconds, because that's the remainder when you divide 350 by 60. So it is working properly. It's timing this 50 seconds, even though it has the 5 minutes here. It's actually only timing the 50 seconds. And it's meant to be doing that because we haven't finished writing the script yet. But we are about halfway through writing the script, and you can see the timer is working properly. So now we've done that, we have another variable here called time in minutes. We've already used it a lot of times, but we're actually going to show it. What we're actually going to do with this now is we know that time in minutes is a whole number, and it represents the number of minutes we need to time, right? So we've already got rid of the remainder here. We've already timed those 50 seconds that we've got on top of it. So now we're going to time the number of minutes we need to time. So we're going to have another for statement. So for I equals 1, time in minutes, do, right? And then we're actually going to add another for statement within this for statement. So for I equals 1, 60, do, and that's because we're saying we're going to time 60 seconds for every minute. So what this will do is it will loop for every minute we have stored in that variable, it will loop, and then it will, when it loops, it will run this loop, which runs 60 seconds. So right now it will run 60 seconds because I've added the wait 1. Now in this we're going to put something very similar to what we put here. Actually, it's a very similar process. So we're going to say if time in minutes is more than 9, then, so we're checking if it's more than 2 digits or not, and then we're going to have another else here once more, and in this section here we're going to put if 60 minus I is less than 10, then, and what we're actually doing here is we're checking the number of seconds that are left to be the number of seconds along we are, right? So we're saying we're doing 60, which is the number of seconds in a minute, take away however long we are, however far along the loop we are. So if we're 30 seconds along the loop, then it will do 60 take away 30, so that means there's 30 seconds left in the loop. So it's saying if the number of seconds left is less than 10, then do this, and then we're going to put another else here, which obviously means that if 60, what this else will do is it will everything inside this else will run when there are more than when it's more than 10, when the number of seconds left is more than 10. So in this if statement we're going to put clock text equals time in minutes followed by another colon, surprise surprise, because we're just doing it following along with the clock theme still. And the reason we haven't put a 0 at the front of this is because we've already checked here how many digits there are really, because we've checked if the number of minutes left is more than 9, and it is more than 9, which means it's 2 digits, so we don't need to add a 0 on. In fact, if we did add a 0 on, it would look very weird because there'd be 3 digits. So we've now got time in minutes colon, and then we're going to add another to signify adding something on the end again. And in this after this we're going to put a 0 in the string thing, in speech mark, sorry, the string thing, and then we're going to put 60 minus I. So what we've actually done here is we've said the number of minutes left, followed by colon, followed by 0, followed by the number of seconds left to time in this minute. And then we're going to do a similar thing in this one, very similar still. Clock text equals time in minutes, time in minutes, colon, 60 minus I. right? And the reason we've done this is because we know that the number of seconds left is more than one digit, sorry. So we don't need to add another 0 on the end because it's more than 10, the number of seconds left. Okay, so now we've done that. We're very near the end now, actually. We're going to add a if 60 take away I is less than 10, then. So we're actually inside the else here of this if statement. So what this actually means is that if the number of minutes left is less than 10, so if the number of minutes left is a single digit, essentially, then do this. So what we're doing here is we're saying if the number of seconds left is less than 10, just like we've done here, then do this. So we can actually just copy and paste this. That's but we don't need to actually. We're going to write it out again. Clock text equals time. Actually, no, we're not going to do that, sorry. Because if the number of minutes left is less than 10, then it's one digit. So we don't want 5 colon like this. We don't want it like this because that looks weird. What we want is it to be like 0, 5, right? So to do that, we're going to have 0, ... and then time in minutes, ... colon, ... 60 minus I. So once again, that works out the number of seconds left, followed by a 0. And the reason we've added 0 on the end, actually, sorry, not on the end. Once again, I've done that wrong. We're actually going to add the 0 in this here. And the reason we've got this 0 here is because the number of seconds left, as we've just found out, worked out by using this if statement, the number of seconds left is less than 10, which means that it's a single digit. So we need to add a 0 on the front of it to make it 2 digits, so it looks like a conventional clock. And then we're going to do another else. Clock text equals 0, once just like the last one, time in minutes, ... colon, ... and then 60 minus I. So it's exactly the same thing apart from without the 0, because we've already got 2 digits. So we're not done yet, actually, so don't go away because your script won't work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say every single time that this loops round, this loops round, so every single time it's timed 60 seconds, we want to take away 1 from the variable time in minutes, because we've already timed a minute. So basically we're slowly working our way down to 0 minutes through this loop. So now we can test it. Obviously it will take a long time, so I'll speed it up so you can see it does work. At first I'll just keep it normal speed and then it will speed up so you can see it works. As I said, the scripts are in the description of the video. Please leave a like, comment if you need help. I have a feeling there are going to be a lot of comments needing help because this is a very complicated thing for especially beginner scripters. Because, you know, if I wouldn't recommend trying this if you're a beginner scripter. Definitely look at the script, definitely read the script, and try and understand what I've said in this video, but I wouldn't recommend scripting this from scratch. I would probably just recommend going into the description. There will be a game there that you can press the 3 dots on the top right on and press edit, and then you can view this entire game that I've just made right now for free, obviously, everything, and then you can use it in your game. Just change the UI to make it look however you want it to look, and that's it. So thanks for watching. Bye.